Dreamers of the weary world, it's time that we woke up. And there's another king killing his own people.
What will happen in this situation is that the Israeli police or soldiers would come and arrest the Palestinian child while they do nothing and only provide protections to the other child who happens to be an Israeli settler.
Hello, my name is Stanley Heller. Welcome to The Struggle. We're going to begin the program with songs from Dylan Connor that he sang at the Fairfield event for Syria that was called Arts and the Syrian Revolt.
You know, a lot of people don't realize when you heard in the news about Duma, you heard in the news about Ghouta, they're not like far off from Damascus. I mean, it would be like if Manhattan was doing fine, like Damascus, right? People are milling about in the main city of Damascus now. They go out to shops, they can go to the cafe, and Brooklyn is rubble, and Staten Island is rubble. And all those boroughs right around it have been obliterated. That's where Duma and Ghouta are in comparison to Damascus. That's what it's like. So just to give
10-minute by car.
Yeah.
Plus 10 minutes by car.
Yeah. Just amazing. This is a song I wrote in 2012 or 13 called Weary World, and it was specifically in response to a video I saw of a baby boy who had been hit with shrapnel in his chest in Humps. This was during the first city that the regime started to bomb with its air force was Humps, if I'm remembering correctly. And there was a boy who had a piece of shrapnel in his chest on the news, and his father was helpless and helping to comfort him as he died. And that was the impetus for this song, because I just felt like, gosh, can the world please do something about this? This is ridiculous. Unacceptable. Ridiculous isn't the right word. Every other chorus I sing in Arabic, so if you're an Arabic speaker, excuse my accent. And if you're an English speaker and you're wondering what the heck I'm saying, it's because I've switched languages.
Dreamers of the weary world, it's time that we woke up. And there's another king killing his own people. Dreamers of the weary world, it's time that we woke up and ring them bells from high inside our steeple. The dictator of Damascus wears a suit and tie, but his tank shells fill the sky, and his citizens seek shelter in their basements. The food is running out now. There are children without heat. Rockets force them into the streets, where the sniper's bullet greets them on the pavement. Ayyuhal alam al-naimu فلتستيقظوا هناك حاكم يقتل شعبه أيها العالم النائم فلتستيقظوا هل تقرأوا الجرس عاليا. His name might mean the lion, but he acts more like a mouse, running with the rats inside his house. And the United Nations answers with its silence. He depends on his friends in Iran and Hezbollah, vetoes from China and Russia, who supply the weapons of the deadly violence. Oh, dreamers of the weary world, it's time that we woke up. There's another king killing his own people. Oh, dreamers of the weary world, it's time that we woke up and ring them bells from high inside our steeple. I saw a baby boy last night with shrapnel in his chest. I was the uninvited guest, watched as his father did his best to ease his passing. Mothers of the world weep for the innocents who die, for the corrupt and vicious lies, for justice to open her closed eyes and come a-crashing. Oh, ayyuha la'alim il-naimu faltastayqidu hunaka hakim yaqtalu shabaho. Ayyuha la'alim il-naimu faltastayqidu فلتقرأوا الأجر عاليا. Oh, don't you turn away now, don't you be paralyzed. Watch the TV mesmerized. We can do more than empathize. We can help save human lives through concrete action. So let's lift our voices to them now, wherever you may roam. Let them know they're not alone. Let your deeds sow the seeds of real compassion. Oh, dreamers of the weary world, it's time that we woke up. And there's another king killing his own people. Yes, dreamers of the weary world, it's time that we woke up and ring them bells from high inside our steeple. Thank you. I wanted to play one more song and then have a Q&A with Bassam and myself if you have any questions about any of the activism that I'm doing or the trips I've taken, if you're interested in becoming more active. And obviously there's so much to ask Bassam, so I think a Q&A would be really a good idea. Sorry, my voice. I taught a full day of school today, and when I teach high school kids, and today I call it Mythology Friday, so it requires me doing a lot of storytelling. So. All right, so let's see here. I could play the Idlib song again, but you heard it earlier. I could play Man of Peace, which is the song for Riyas Matar, and for the movie Little Gandhi, that was about him. So that was exciting for us last year. We were getting close to the Academy Awards with this film. It was the first Syrian film nominated in the foreign language category. And I wrote the official song for that movie. As I'm talking about it, I better play it, right? All right, so let's remember, as we're 7 years on here, it's very important to remember where this started. And a man like Rias Matar is the perfect example of what the Syrian youth was all about in 2011. He was a leader in his community of Daria, his city was named, and he was very energetic and active and charismatic, and so he led a lot of the protests, and he would help organize some of the early protests for dignity of his people and for changes in his government. And he was determined to use the methods learned through Martin Luther King and Gandhi to have that kind of civil disobedience, but without violence. And he was committed to that. And so he had the idea of bringing, he and his friends had the idea of bringing bottles of water out to the protests, because they figured the guys in the army suits, they're our brothers, and they're hot. They're out here, you know, in the heat, thinking that we're terrorists, because that's what they've been told by the government. You're going to go fight some terrorists. And so they would hand out bottles of water with white roses to the soldiers. Well, that kind of peace movement really pissed off the regime. And unfortunately, they tracked him down and they arrested him. And they did what they do with so many people, torture him to death. And so I want to focus on just celebrating his spirit. And if you want to sing along, I say his name a lot in this song, so if you want to say it, go ahead. His name is Rias. It's called the Man of Peace. So let's remember that there were many peaceful people starting this movement. Next to you, Rias, Rias, in your revolution so true. Rias, Rias, where there was fear you broke through. You believed our country could be born anew. Rias, Rias, you set the place and the hour. Rias, Rias, you met the soldiers with flowers. Rias, Rias, you brought water to the drought. You quenched our thirst and washed away the doubt. The man of peace, who opened the door. The man of peace, who was still marching for. The man of peace, whose heart was so pure. We were lost on the ocean, and you brought us to shore. Rias, Rias, you did not die in vain. Rias, Rias, we will carry your flame. Rias, we won't stop until the lion's in chains, and the stars above are forever singing your name. The man of peace, who opened the door. The man of peace, who we're still marching for. The man of peace, whose heart was so pure. We were lost on the ocean, you brought us to shore. Your compassion was more dangerous than rage. They stole you away and locked you up in a cage. The way they killed you was vile and depraved. and their crimes will follow them beyond the grave. The man of peace, oh, who opened the door, the man of peace. Oh, isn't that worth fighting for, the man of peace? Ooh, we couldn't ask for more. We were lost on the ocean, you brought us to shore. Rias, Rias. Let's say his name together. Rias, Rias. One more time. Rias, Rias.
In response to the murders in Idlib, Syria, of Raed Fares and Hamoud Janid, there are protests being scheduled. In Connecticut, one called Banners for Fares, Janid, and Syrian Democracy is being organized in Hartford. See thestruggle.org for details. And go to the website of The New Yorker to see this report about 40,000 Syrians starving within binocular sight of a U.S. base in Tanf, Syria. Just Google Tanf, New Yorker. There's been a breakthrough in Congress on the war against Yemen. After years of protests, like this recent action at Senator Schumer's office in New York City, and because of Khashoggi's murder and Trump's refusal to let Congress see the CIA report, which supposedly concludes that Prince Salman ordered the hit, a majority in the Senate voted to bring a bill on the war in Yemen to the floor of the Senate for the first time. By the time you see this video, the vote probably will have been taken. Even if it passes, the war won't end, but it is a major step. And let us not forget Khashoggi and his grieving family. There are questions even the best reporters are not asking. Where are Khashoggi's remains? Why have they not been returned to his family? Who are the people who have been arrested by the Saudis in connection with this crime? Are they still alive? Will they have public trials? Will they have lawyers in due process? Will they be allowed to say who ordered them to do certain things? This is what the media should be asking. And Trump should ask it too when he hobnobs with Salman at the G20. We urge you to go to thestruggle.org and to sign the petition about Khashoggi. And to look at this graphic, copy it, and pass it around. In reaction to the attack on migrant families with CS gas, there was a protest in New Haven.
No one is illegal on stolen land. No one is illegal on stolen land.
And many of them, thousands of them, they are right now in Tijuana, the border of Tijuana and San Diego, California. So yesterday, a group of people desperate because the line to make the political asylum is so long, and some of them, they don't have enough food, and they don't have, they are desperate to cross to the other side. They decide to just, like jump the fence, trying to get inside and try to expedite their political asylum petitions. But then they got like shot, and they got like gas by the border patrol. And we feel this violence doesn't have is not right. And it's not right because I think the basic right to apply for the political asylum that is protected by the international law doesn't say that if the people they're desperate, we should shut them and harm them. So that's one point. The other point is like Honduras has, the political process in Honduras has been like damaged by the U.S. policies in that country.
See more of the video of the rally on our YouTube channel, Struggle Video Media. And now Ruba Awadallah, as she spoke at a Tree of Life Fund event in Madison, Connecticut. Awadallah is a researcher at Defense of Children International, Palestine.
I aim today to provide you with a brief overview of the rights situation of Palestinian children living in the occupied Palestinian territory. And since the videos work now, I will also be sharing with you 3 videos because I believe that it's important for you to hear the stories from children themselves and not just from me stating facts about the situation. So DCIP is an independent local Palestinian child rights organization dedicated to defending and promoting the rights of children living in the West Bank, including East Jerusalem and the Gaza Strip. DCIP works across the occupied Palestinian territory to monitor, investigate, and document grave human rights violations against Palestinian children, hold Israeli and Palestinian authorities accountable to international humanitarian law and international human rights law, and promote the participation and empowerment of children so they can address their own rights situation. We also provide direct legal aid to children in distress and implement evidence-based advocacy campaigns at the national and international level to advance access to justice and increase protections for children. You might be familiar with one of our campaigns and you have papers about it, which is the No Way to Treat a Child campaign. So what is the rights situation like for Palestinian children living in the occupied Palestinian territory? Children represent around 45% of the Palestinian population living in the occupied West Bank, including East Jerusalem and the Gaza Strip. Instability and violence define much of their life. It's important to note that Israel applies 2 legal systems in the West Bank. Military law, with severe restrictions on daily life, applies to Palestinians, while Israeli settlers living on the same land and Israeli-only settlements that are illegal by international law fall under the Israeli civilian law. This means that Israeli soldiers and police stationed throughout the West Bank enforce military law and protect the Israeli settler population at the expense of Palestinian citizens. What does this really mean? So let's say, for instance, there were 2 15-year-old boys standing on the same land doing the same act. Let's say these 2 boys are throwing a stone at the separation barrier. The only difference in this situation is that one of these boys is Palestinian while the other is an Israeli settler. What will happen in this situation is that the Israeli police or soldiers would come and arrest the Palestinian child while they do nothing and only provide protections to the other child who happens to be an Israeli settler. So this is what it really means to have 2 legal systems on the same ground. In this hyper-militarized environment, Palestinian children face disproportionate physical violence, restricted access to education, and psychological trauma. Since the year 2000, Israeli forces, security guards, and settlers have killed more than 2,070 Palestinian children, according to DCIP research. So far this year, Israeli forces have killed 47 children. 41 of them are from the Gaza Strip. It's important to note that the majority of this year's child fatalities were killed during the March of Return protests in the Gaza Strip that started on March 30th. Israel also misuses crowd control weapons, and because of their misuse, Many children suffer from critical and permanent injuries. Some of these children died as a result of Israel's misuse of crowd-controlled weapons. Faris al-Bayyad, 15 years, died from his injuries on December 23, 2016, 2 months after Israeli soldiers fired a rubber-coated metal bullet at his head, which entered his skull and lodged in his brain. On July 19, 2016, Israeli forces fired a sponge-tipped plastic bullet at 10-year-old Muhyi Tabachi's chest that killed him. Accountability is extremely rare in cases where Israeli forces, security guards, or settlers are accused of committing crimes against Palestinian children. Israeli rights group Yesh Din reported that of 186 internal investigations into Israeli soldiers accused of harming Palestinians in 2015, only 3.1% of cases yielded an indictment. So, as we said, in this hyper-militarized environment, many children end up being killed or injured. Other children end up being ill-treated in the Israeli military detention system. In 2017, an average of 310 Palestinian children, largely male, were in the Israeli prison system each month for security offenses, according to Israeli Prison Service data. Among them were an average of 60 children between the ages of 12 and 15. So when we talk about the Israeli military detention system, when we talk about children in the Israeli military detention system, the age range that we're talking about is 12 to 17. Because according to military law, no child below the age of 12 could be prosecuted in Israeli military courts. Does this mean that a 9 or 10 or 8 Palestinian boy or girl are safe? No. They could be stopped at a checkpoint or in a military jeep for a couple of hours and questioned and then released. It just means that they do not reach the military courts and do not enter the Israeli military detention system. But it's also a very tragic experience for them.
More of our talk next week. That's our program for today. See you next week at this time. I'm Stanley Heller for The Struggle.